Welcome to Breakneck to the Bible, 2017-2018, class number 2. Okay, so just a couple of quick reminders. Number one is the high holidays are starting Wednesday night. So we're going to have services, we're going to have learner services Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday, as well as normal ones on Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock. And it's going to be the night ones on Wednesday night and Thursday night start at 7. The morning ones start at 10:30 in the morning, on Thursday morning and Friday morning. And it's going to be a congregation or Torah at 6324 Churchill Way. And so we'll be having with us the illustrious Rabbi Lashak, who will be speaking on Thursday morning and Friday morning. If you haven't heard him, he's something truly worth coming to speak, coming to hear. And then and so that's Rosh Hashanah. Then we have Yom Kippur as well, and our high holiday learner services on Yom Kippur at 7 o'clock on Friday night the following week, and then Saturday morning at 10:30 we'll have Yom Kippur services, and that will go, and then we'll have straight through the day classes and until the Nila service and the final service, and then we'll go ahead and we'll have so Nihila, a closing service, and a break fast. So that's all coming up. So if you ever get made your reservations, let us know. After class we could make the reservations. Love to see everybody come and join us. Okay, good. So, class number 2. So last week again we just went through again quickly how we know that the Torah is from God. Right? We talked about fingerprints, right? About how in the Torah, right, there's information that only God can know. Right? We talked about that if we had to write a book and had to prove that we were going ahead and we were writing a book, what information we put in? Only information that we can know. And so God goes ahead, right? Then we go ahead and we talked about how there are basically, we just picked 4 of them or 5 of them, right? That God says there's only one animal that has a split hoof, and that's the pig, and it does not have chewed cut. All of the animals either have both or have none. Somebody asked me actually during the week, what does it mean? What's the definition of a split hoof? Which is important to know. A split hoof, the way the Torah is defining a split hoof, is a bone that comes to the end, sort of like a knob. Okay, like it's kind of like the bone sort of comes to an end. Take a look at any kosher animal, you see what it's talking about. Right how the bone itself goes and has a split hoof. And a camel, they just choose its cut, does not have a split hoof. It's got a pad on the bottom, even though the top looks like there's a line there, right? But there's a pad on the bottom that's not split. Right? So therefore, that's what, when the Torah says split hoof, that's what it means. And the Torah also goes and says there are only 3 animals in the world that chew its cud and does not have a split hoof. All the animals in the world either have both or have none. Right? Again, you have 2 of those. Now then you go ahead, you have the laws of Shemitah. Right? Every 7 years you have to stop. Right? You're not allowed to plant. And we say, well, you're not allowed to plant. Well, then what are you going to eat? So the Torah says, God says, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a bumper crop in year number 6. And there's one thing we can't control is weather. Just as any Texan or Floridian, I say, right? And the Torah goes ahead and the Torah says, oh, by the way, guess what? You're going to go ahead and you're going to have, you're going to go ahead and have a bumper crop in year number 6, when it should be the weakest. And we talked about that the mitzvah the Jews have 3 times a year to go up to Jerusalem, right? 3 times a year, all males have to go to Jerusalem and Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. What's the problem if all males go up then? No one's guarding. Who's guarding the humus, right? You're going to leave yourself open for invasion, for theft, etc. And God said, don't worry about it. We got it all covered, right? And that's kind of, and so again, so we said these are what I call God's fingerprints, right? That it goes ahead, and at that point in time, that there are fingerprints that God goes ahead and to show that He is the author of this book. And then we talked about that there has to be an oral law, because there are no commandments that you can understand without some oral, right? Without some explanation, right? And so, right, we said even something as simple as "you shall not kill," right? We said is "you shall not kill" it doesn't mean "you shall not murder," right? And then who defines what is killing, what is murdering, and list goes on and on. Somebody throws somebody off to the roof of the Empire State Building. Somebody in the 50th floor opens up the window and slices them in half. Who's the murderer? The guy in the top, the guy in the middle. And so you have all those different questions that come about that go ahead, that there has to be some sort of explanation, right? And so therefore, right, and the Torah goes ahead, and the Torah right? That companion, so to speak, to the companion to the written Torah, right, is what we call the oral law. And that then was called oral law because it's passed down orally the first roughly almost 1,500 years, right? And then it was first written down the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, and then afterwards it was gone ahead, and then you had Rabbi Judah the Prince, and then you had later on the Rami and Ravasi, at least the Babylonian Talmud, right, in roughly 450, 500 of the Common Era. They went ahead and they codified the Talmud right onto the Mishnah. And so we have a package of the written and the oral law, and therefore to understand what is written in the oral law, what is written in the written law, you need to go ahead and you have to have access to the oral law, and to be able to understand what that is. And so the good news is that I've studied some of it, so I'm familiar with it, and so I could share that with you. The other good news is that we have Rashi, right? The great commentary Rashi, the medieval sage, probably the most important commentary on the Torah, and he goes ahead and he incorporates a lot of the oral law, kind of just writing it as footnotes, right? And if you take a look actually in your Chumash, and if you open up to page 2, for example, just a simple, right, you open up to the first page, you take a look, just the Hebrew text of the Torah is on your top right, right? You see the top right, that's your Hebrew text. On the top left is a translation of that, of the Hebrew text, right? There's a translation of the Torah. Anything underneath the commentary. If you look on the right side, underneath the text, you are going ahead. There's Rashi's commentary, okay, and so therefore, right, this Rashi's commentary is really that's a famous commentary, right? We love Rashi, and to refrain I teach everybody, because he's made it that he brings the two together, the oral law as well as the written law all together. Okay, so those are the two. Okay, so we're about to start the Chumash. So the first question is a couple questions you got to ask. Okay, so question number 1 is, what is the purpose of the Chumash? Right? Why did God write this book? What's the purpose? What are we supposed to learn from this book? Right? Why does God took the time and he wrote the book? Why?
How to be godly and have a relationship with him.
How to be godly and how to be in relationship with him. Good. What else?
Morals and values.
Morals and values. Okay, excellent. Right. So what I'd like to say, both are correct, right? And really, morals and values, right? Really, ethics, right? The proper behavior, right? To learn how to live and learn how to act, right? And so therefore, you need to have, right? You need a Torah to teach you that, right? I say the biggest tragedy we have in our world today is that the world does not know where our morals and values come from. Right? We're in a world that's sort of adrift without any morals and values. People are just deciding what they want and saying that's morals and values. And if you detach them from God, eventually you end up with a terrible society. And then you actually have that in the Torah. You have a few cases of that. There's a famous story where Abraham, right? Abraham's wife Sarah gets taken, right? And they go ahead and Sarah gets taken, right? She gets kidnapped by the king of the Philistines. And this is the second time Sarah gets taken, right? The first time she gets taken by the king of Pharaoh, the second time by the king of the Philistines. And what happened? And what happens is at that point in time, the king of the Philistines, they already know that maybe Abraham is maybe traveling with the sister. They've heard about it before, so they wait. And then they go ahead and then they take Sarah. And then at that point in time, Sarah gets taken. And that night, God comes to the king of the Philistines and says, I just want to let you know, if you touch Sarah, I will kill you. And he goes ahead and he closes up every orifice in the Philistine king's household. Okay? No bathroom. Right? You could not go to the bathroom. And he says, you're going to die unless you go ahead and you get this great man and his wife to pray for you. Right? And what happens is that, so the next morning, the king of the Philistines quickly calls in Abraham, and he's got to go to the bathroom. He's gone in bed, able to go now, ready for 15 hours, and says, why don't you tell me that she's your wife? She's your wife, right? Because somebody else's wife would have taken her. But you're a holy man, and God's on your side. So how come you're going to go take her? How come you didn't tell me? And you know we're moral and ethical people. And what does Abraham say? So Abraham says one of the greatest lines ever. He says, "Rak ein yiras Elokim b'makom hazeh." There's no awe of God in this place. He says, if your system is based on not God, right? Your system is based on man. Eventually, man will do what man wants. Right? And so therefore, if you don't have, right, you don't have the basis for the awe of God, right? Fear/awe of God. At that point in time, your system will not last. And it's sad because we live in a world today where that's very disconnected, right? Where our morals and values come from, and therefore the purpose of the Torah is to teach us morals and values, right? Ethics, and therefore the Torah is not a history book. Okay, the Torah is not a history book. The Torah will not go ahead, and the Torah will not give us necessarily a timeline of history. We can learn some history of what things that are taking place, right? But the Torah is not a history book. Okay, right? The Torah is a book to teach us morals and ethics, and it picks stories that teach us morals and ethics, and therefore that becomes in the question of we have to ask every time we study something is what is the morals and values, the ethics we're supposed to take from this story and learn it and apply it to our lives. Okay, so that's exactly what this book is, and therefore it's very important for us to go ahead and to understand that and to look at that. Okay, fine. So why does God create the world? Let's start with the simple questions. We like to start with small questions and move up. Right? Why did God create the world? And then secondary, then why are we here? Right? So we're studying Torah. We're here, right? So the Torah starts with creation. Why does God create the world? Because He can. Okay, because He can.
To share.
To share. To be known. Okay, well, if God knows everything and needs nothing, right? Again, that's part of our definition of God, right? He's all powerful, all knowing, right? Above time, needs nothing. So then, why does God go ahead and why does God create us? Why is that? Why did He create a world? Why did He put it here? Yeah.
Because the essence of God is giving.
Oh.
And He wanted to give to us.
Very good. So God in His essence is a giver. Okay? God is right, He wants to give. And therefore, since He wanted to give, He created us to give. Right? Okay, so therefore we are here. The world is here for the sole purpose of God giving to us. Okay? Got it? A very simple statement. The whole world is here so God can give to us. That's the whole purpose of the world. So if the whole purpose of the world is for God to give us, right? That's what we're here for. So what's the ultimate good that God could give us?
Relationship with Him.
A relationship with Him. Very good, right? The greatest good is a relationship with God. There's only one problem. What's the problem? What? We're human. What? We're not perfect. That's not a problem. God has perfect things around Him. God has angels. Angels are perfect.
How do you have a relationship?
Oh, very good. How do you have a relationship with God? Right? That really becomes the question. Right? How do you have a relationship with God? And how does that happen? Right? How do you have a relationship with God? That's the real question. And again, what makes the question even tougher is we're humans and God is not human. So how could we humans understand how to have a relationship with God? Right? You're following? Right? It doesn't. Right? How could? And the answer is we have no clue. The only way we know is because we have this book. Right? Okay? Now the greatest gift that God could give us is to go ahead and to give us, I call it, why didn't God just give us an unlimited credit card? Never have to pay the bills. Just swipe all the time. Today I had to buy some equipment for Houston. So I called them up, I gave them my credit card. They called me back home and said, Rabbi, the credit card declined. And I said, really? I said, I didn't get any email that it was declined. He said, whatever. I said, fine. I said, let me give you a different one. Right? But there's a limit. I don't know if I hit the limit. I didn't hit the limit. Right? But there's a limit to our credit card. Why didn't God just give us, if we're here just for God to give to us, right? So why didn't God just give us that unlimited credit card that we could just keep on swiping forever without ever having to pay the bill?
When
What?
We wouldn't need him.
Sure we would, because we need his credit card.
We would be takers and not givers.
Ah! So what would happen is, if God just gave to us, and we just kept on swiping those credit, or chipping the credit cards, right? What would that turn us into? Takers. And God is a giver. So God says, I can't give you an unlimited credit card, because at the end of the day, you're going to be a taker, and to be godly is to be a giver. And therefore, it's not going to work. So what does God do? So how could God give us? And at the same time, how could God give us? And at the same time, go ahead and make it that we're not takers, but we're givers? Free will? Okay. How?
We have a choice or an option to have a relationship.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Go ahead. We have choice and option to have a relationship. Go ahead. Norm?
We have to earn it by praying and also by studying Torah.
So the answer is he gives us a way to earn it. Okay, right? To earn what we get. How do we earn what we get? Following his commandments, right? Okay, that's where free will comes in. By choosing to create, right? By doing. Let me ask you a question. Does God really care that Bentzi Epstein ate kosher for supper? Yes, huh?
No.
What?
Yes, he would.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Right? But God is whole world. Why does he care what I ate? Why does he care what I ate?
Because he loves you.
Because when I ate kosher, what am I saying to God?
I believe.
I want a relationship with you. Right? And I'm quote unquote, I'm giving to God. And now he could reward me or he could pay me for what I gave him. But it means instead of giving me life, right? Instead of giving me life, he's now instead of just giving, I'm taking it, I'm actually giving. And therefore we create the process of God is the ultimate giver, and when he goes ahead and he gives to me, right? I could go ahead and quote unquote I could give back, and so therefore I'm not a taker, but I'm a giver in the relationship as well. And therefore I can become truly God. Make it following? Which is why, by the way, that's why God made it that the ultimate goodness that we, what does God go ahead? What does God say? God says, I want you to go ahead and get married. Right? Why? What?
Procreate.
To procreate. And the answer is no, you can do it without procreation.
To be a giver.
Right? God created us like amoebas. Right? Amoebas don't need a second amoeba to procreate. Right? And God wants us to get married even when we're too old to have children. Right? Right? So right? So why does God want us to be married?
That makes you happy?
It's funny because if you have to figure out which way you have more happiness and more grief. So the reason is the underlying theme.
To give and take.
No. We'll go ahead. Close.
Well, I mean, you have to. Each party has to give to the other.
Right.
The wife has to give to the husband, and they balance each other.
And what happens when they give to each other?
They're giving to God.
They're giving to each other, so they are givers, not takers. Right? And so therefore they're becoming godly. So when you go ahead and you choose to get married, what are you doing? You're saying, I want to become a giver. You know, it's like a couple comes to me and says, Rabbi, I want you to marry us. I say, fantastic. What do you why do you want to get, most people say, why do you want to get married? Oh, this person makes me such a better person, right? Right, just right, though, I become such a better person around them. I say, marriage is heading for the rocks. When somebody comes and asks me, Rabbi, I want to get married, you know what the first question I ask them? What are you ready to give? Because marriage is about giving, not about taking. If you're here because the other person makes me better, so that makes you into a taker. Right? So again, you're not becoming godly then by getting married. God says, I want you to go find somebody. Go get married and commit to give to that person, right, your entire life. Because the more you can give, the greater you can become. The more godly you can become. So marriage is all about being a giver, not a taker. Right? Again, following? Right? That's the purpose, and that's the purpose of life, to become givers like God, not takers. So God created the world for what purpose? And we should go ahead and we should become givers, right? We should go ahead and we should be able to give, right? God created us so that He could give to us. The greatest good that God could give to us is by us going in and us also being able to give. And that's where the commandments come in, that we go ahead, we do the commandments, we're quote unquote giving back to God, and then we could get what we earned rather than just a handout, rather than just swiping the credit card every time. Okay? So God creates the world, right? God creates the world for us to be able to give to us. He creates a Torah, that an instruction manual on how to create this relationship, right? And how to go ahead and become godly in the process, right? That's the purpose of what we're doing over here. Now the Torah starts off with the story of creation. Okay? What is the story of creation? What's important for us to know that God created the world? How He did. So it's very interesting, right? The Torah goes ahead, and the Torah devotes exactly one chapter to the creation of the world, 31 verses. Right? If we had actually sit down and write down how God created the world, right? How big a room would we need for all the books? Right? We need a huge, right? We need books and books and books and books and books. And God takes 31 verses and tells us, by the way, I created the world and here's how it goes. Right? So why does God go ahead? Why does He create the world? And then He created the world to give. And why does He tell us that He's the creator? Why is it important for us to know that God's the creator of the world?
So that we can be thankful to someone, to Him.
Does He need us to be thankful for Him? And even more so, and kind of even to make the question even a stronger question, right? Do we truly understand how great God is and all the goodness He does? So really, when we thank God, it's probably pretty painful in God's ears to hear us say thank you to God. God, you're amazing. You're terrific. You drove the car within the 2 lines. Right? God's going, right? That's not what this is about, right? We create hope, right? So anytime we praise God, to me, it's like we're little peons on telling God how wonderful He is when we really have no clue how wonderful He is. Right? You understand, right? God is so amazing and so terrific.
But that's part of our prayers.
And God willing, and God is.
We praise is part of our prayers.
Right? But God says, I'm willing to listen to you guys. I'm willing to put up with you guys. Right? Praising me. Right? So why?
Because He's good.
God tells us He creates the world for one simple purpose. It's His world. It's not my world. And if it's God's world, He runs the show. He makes the rules. You don't like God's rules? Very simple. Get off His planet. And for that matter, leave His universe. Right? But at the end of the day, it's God's. Right? So that God created the world is a very important piece for us to know, right? Because God is the one who is going ahead and who is the creator of the world, and it's His world. It's His world. He gets a chance to create the rules, right? And therefore, that becomes in our responsibilities to follow those rules. Right? That's right. Second thing, and this is very important to current events. If God created the world, who does the world belong to? It belongs to God. If the world belongs to God, right? So then, what does that mean? That the world belongs to God is that He can give to who He wants to, and He can take from who He wants to, right? So people who go ahead and people who say to the Jewish people, right? Say to the Jewish people, you are robbers because you're living in the land of Israel. What's the simple answer?
God gave us Israel.
God gave us Israel. So who does Israel belong to? my God. and through extension, Michael. And through extension, right? Okay. And through extension, right? Through extension, that he goes ahead, right? Through extension, he can give it to who he wants and can take it from who he wants, right? And so therefore, right, the land of Israel belongs to us, right? And so therefore, end the story. Okay, page 3.
But he gave it to us, but it's or maybe he instruct us to manage it temporarily because it's not really our property.
Say it again.
He got instruct us,
Yeah.
To manage that thing, that land temporarily because it doesn't become our property though.
Who does it belong to?
It belongs to God.
Yeah, right. Again, the whole world belongs to God, right?
Right.
So God said, "Here, I'm going to leave the land of Israel. There's the land of Israel. It's for you to dwell on." And therefore, people say, "Well, the people living there before." The answer is, okay. God first gave it to them, then He took it away, and then He gave it to us. It now belongs to us. Right? So we don't have to apologize to anybody for living in the land of Israel. It's our land. God gave it to us. Right?
So the owner gave it to us.
That's right. Yeah. God signed it, and there it is. It belongs to us. Yeah.
Many years ago, in the 60s, there was a guy named Irv Kupson in Chicago who had a talk show.
Right.
And he had the ambassador from Egypt and Menachem Begin there.
Mm-hmm.
And the ambassador was giving all these reasons why, historically, the modern history, why it belongs to the Egyptians, why it belongs to the Palestinians.
Right.
And Begin sat there very quietly.
Right.
Finally, he said something. He said, "But God gave it to us, and therefore it's ours."
Right. That's the bottom line.
And this guy didn't say a word.
Okay. Good. Okay. So top of page 3. Okay. Top of page 3. Justin, you want to read?
Yep. In the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep, and the divine presence hovered upon the surface of the waters, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
We through the end to the bottom of the paragraph.
God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light and darkness. God called to the light day, and to the darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning one day. Okay,
excellent. Okay, so we just read the first 5 verses. We'll give yourself a round of applause. Woo! Okay, all right. So now we started the Chumash. Now we're going to be 3 weeks in this page. Okay, just kidding. All right. It's Breakneck, so we're going to do it like in 2 weeks. Okay, so what's the first thing that God created?
Heavens and the earth.
Mud, light.
Light.
Okay, could I ask you a question? And you're saying that because in verse number 3, it said God said, "Let be light," and there was light, right?
Darkness.
It was darkness beforehand.
Something existed, He had to create it.
Good. Okay. What else?
Water.
Water. And verse 2 it says God's Spirit is hovering over the water.
Space.
So there's water.
The earth.
The space, the earth. And none of that says that.
Question.
When the earth was
Yeah.
He didn't say I put water under the ground either.
Okay, right. So correct. So I'm pointing out is that really verse number 3 says God said, "Let there be light." Exactly what you said, right? But there's things that I created beforehand, right? And yet it doesn't seem that God talks about them or tells me about them. Right? The following, right? So what are all these things?
He created the earth, but it was like a shell, and then He had to fill it in.
That's very interesting. So let me tell you. So this is the way to understand at least the first 2 sentences. And actually, Justin, how you read them was very good. It's a preposition. In the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty with darkness upon the face of the earth, and the divine presence hovered upon the water, God said, "Let there be light."
But it doesn't say He created the earth or the water.
Correct. It doesn't tell us about that. Right? Right?
So he might not be the creator.
No. But it's so okay. Hold on. So the first two sentences, the preposition, then God said, "Let there be light." So I the way I kind of explain it, the way to me that like it makes sense of what it is that imagine we're all sitting here, we're watching a play. Okay, and the beginning of the play, right before the play starts, we're sitting in our seats. The lights go down, everything is dark, and all of a sudden, in front of us, right, the screen opens up. The light goes on, and there's a whole setting on the scene, right? And so that's really what happened. The beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, darkness upon the face of the deep, and God said, "Let there be light." Click, light goes on. What do you see on the scene? The Spirit of God hovering over the water, right? And the Spirit of God hovering over the water, right? And that Spirit of God hovering over the water, right? And then it goes on, and that's what God says, and then there was light. I sort of look at it as if like you have the, you ever see the Planet of the Apes? Okay, the old one. My movie history ends like in 1985 or something like that, 1990. Okay, right. You go ahead. You take a look at the Planet of the Apes, right? And the scene is you kind of have like that. Like there's like a swamp, right? And there's kind of it's just sort of you have sort of the mist hovering over the water, and then all of a sudden, right, then it opens up. But kind of that scene, right, of the water and the Spirit of God hovering over. Okay, good. Now,
So we just assume he created all of that.
so right. So very good. So we see that the Torah here is not giving us a punch list of the order of creation. Right? Okay, then that's sort of what's getting to. It's not a punch. It's not saying this was created and this was created, this was created. Right? God's telling us, right, that because, for example, actually the word Bereishis, and Talmud said the word Bereishis in the beginning is also a verb of creation. Because the Talmud says that there were 10 utterances in which God created the world. Right? There were 10 utterances in how God created the world. Right? And God said, right, Vayomer, and God said, and if you take a look, you read the Torah, actually there are only 9 times that it says in God said. So where's the 10th time? The 10th time is Bereishis. Right? And that was sort of the beginning of the creation of the world. Okay? Now, yeah.
It says, when it talks about Ramban,
we're going to get to Ramban.
I know,
Okay.
but what it's saying more or less is that the word the earth is now synonymous for the world, which could be synonymous with the universe.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay. We're going to come to that. Okay. So the first. Let's go back to the first word. The first verse. Okay. In the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth. Right. God goes ahead and God is the beginning of Him creating the heavens and the earth. Okay. How long was the world created for?
How long?
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely?
As long as God
Yeah.
wants it to be.
Really, it happens to be interesting. It was the beginning to the entire world, to the entire universe. Right? We call the Big Bang. Right?
You call it the Big Bang.
The scientist. I call it Bereishis. Right? There's the beginning of the world. Right? And so now the beginning of the world. Right? And so there's an end to the world.
When God wills it.
Well, God wills it to be ended.
Yeah,
Right? Okay.
it's gonna-
Right. So how long is the world created for?
We don't know.
Still ongoing. For how long?
We don't know.
We do know.
When the Mashiach comes.
What?
When the Messiah comes.
Well, besides, the world's going to still continue.
Oh.
A little differently.
Wrong. All right.
No, it's not wrong.
Humans have up to 6,000 years.
Humans have, okay. So God created the world for us up to 6,000 years.
How do you know that?
I'm about to show you.
Okay.
Okay.
If you
Take a
were in
look.
class last year. I was here.
Okay, so chapter 1, verse 1. How many times? How do you say 1,000 in Hebrew, by the way?
Are you kidding me?
Anyone know 1,000?
Hamaya?
Elef.
Elef?
Elef. 1,000. And actually, I'll show you, if you write it on the board, it's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Write on the board. Sorry, guys. Okay. You write on the board, Elef. I'm going to try this. Mohammed. Faye. Elef. That's 1,000. Okay? The world is created for Elef is 1,000. What else can you tell me about these 3 letters? What else does those 3 letters spell?
I'm sure God or something.
Close. Aleph, very good. The letter Aleph, this letter Aleph is, right, if you spelled it out, it would be Aleph Lamed Pei. Very important bananagram word. Okay, don't worry, anagram word. Okay, all right? Okay, so you have Aleph, right? Aleph, so Aleph and Elef, right? 1 in 1,000. In Hebrew, you would do the same 1. Why?
Why?
Because the letter Aleph, watch this. This is like super cool. Like now you want to, like, this is something like really worth watching. Okay, the letter Aleph. Okay, the letter Aleph is made up of 3 letters. What 3 letters?
Yud.
A Yud. And here's a Yud.
Yeah.
A second Yud.
Yeah.
And a Vav.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Yud, which is
Oh, Yud.
Yud, Vav, which is 26. Yud is 10. Vav is 6. Yud is 10. 26.
It's also the name.
26
It's also
is the God's name of Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, right? God's tetragrammaton name, right? Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, right? That's God's name, right? That we cannot pronounce, right? We're not supposed to pronounce that. So when we see this word written out, we pronounce it as Adonai, right? Even though it's spelled, right? The J witnesses, right? I don't want to say it because they're actually trying to pronounce that word,
Yeah.
right? So that's why we don't pronounce, we're just on the J witnesses, right? So if you take a look, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, right? That's 26, right? Because remember, in Hebrew, every Hebrew letter has a number. Okay, so you have the Yud, which is 10, 5, 6, 5, which is 26. The Aleph is God's name. That's why the Hebrew letter Aleph, what sound does it make?
No sound.
No sound. Why does it make no sound?
Because God makes it.
Because God, you can't pronounce it. You can't limit God by putting it all together.
But it's there.
But it's there. How do you say general in Hebrew?
Aloof.
Aluf. Again, same letters. Aleph is aluf. Right? All in the letter Aleph. You have your aluf, you have your general, you have your 1, you have your 1,000, which is completion. Right? You have God's name in there. Right? That's the Aleph. How many times does the word Aleph appear in the first verse of the Torah?
Is this the first verse?
Yeah. You have to look in the Hebrew. English.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, but I printed it, so you should be able to tell it.
Over here?
Yeah.
5. Well, I don't know where that is. I think it's 5.
There were 7 words, and six of them have an Aleph.
Yeah. 1, 2, 2.
Every letter, every word has an Aleph except Shashamayim. Right? And actually, if you take the word Bereishis, right? If you split the word Bereishis in half, what do you get? Bara Shis. He created. Shis means 6,000. 6. And he created the world for 6,000 years. Okay? created the world for 6,000 years. Right? That's how long the world is created for. Okay, for 6,000 years. Right?
6,000 years of man's presence,
okay.
right?
Good.
So why 6,000? Why would you want to end it? Why would you want
You wouldn't want to end it. But what's the 7,000?
Yeah,
The
Mashiach.
Mashiach, the rest.
But
Why?
Mashiach's supposed to come and fix things, not to end the world.
Very good. It's what is Mashiach coming to fix?
Us.
What?
Hating everybody, wars.
The wars, right, very good. And what's it supposed to bring it up into? Why are there wars in the world?
Because we make them.
Why is the world dysfunctional?
Human beings make mistakes.
And I wanted to
Right. The answer is, right, it's because dysfunction of human beings. And really it comes from a lack of godliness in this world.
I want to tell you something. This thing to Trump said today.
Okay, what's that? Okay. Okay.
No, but
Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah, we don't talk about politics. We don't. It's off limits. Please do me a favor. None at all, good or bad or indifferent. There's a place of learning Torah, right? There are three. Shar shall tell you all about it. No politics, right? Go ahead and there are three
That's
things.
right.
There are three things we don't talk about in public. We talk about the other two. Right? You know, three things we don't talk about in public.
Yeah.
Right? What is it? It's
Politics.
politics.
Sports.
No. Sports. No. It's politics, religion, and sex. We talk about religion and sex, so we leave politics out. So really,
Sex?
okay. So just really, no politics. So please, it creates too big of a distraction. Okay. So the reason what Mashiach does is he comes here. The world, it's a lack of godliness in the world which causes all this strife.
He brings God.
Right? And what happens is, right, he comes ahead and goes ahead and right, Mashiach heals that, brings godliness back into the world. That's really what he does. And that's why there's world peace, because nobody has anything to fight about anymore. Because it's all about godliness, right? It's all, right, that's what it is. It's all godliness all the time. So therefore, all those things no longer are relevant. Right? And so therefore, right, so the world is created, right, there's 6,000, because really the 7,000 is Mashiach. And then you really have an 8,000th, 9,000th, and 10,000, which then the world becomes more spiritual until the world becomes completely spiritualized.
So these will not exist.
So we becomes totally spiritual. And you say,
the world will be here.
Well,
but we will not want to do anything wrong.
no, but more than that. This world is really almost a figment of our imagination. Right? This world is a temporal world, right? The world is temporary. Nothing here is forever. Right? The whole world itself, by definition, it's finite. What's infinite? God. What else is infinite? Our souls. So our souls continue on. The world ceases to exist, but our soul continues on. Right? You following? Right? And so, actually, everything, the world might disappear. Who cares? Because we're not physical. We're spiritual. And that's really what happens is that when the Messianic era comes, we turn into these spiritual beings, these spiritual essence, and we continue in the spiritual essence.
So why do we have to go so low for Mashiach to come?
Okay. So the answer is, to come Mashiach, either could be so great or so low. It's our choice. We can. So do you ever read those books? You pick the ending. Yeah. So sometimes we're not doing such a great job picking the ending. Yeah.
So some scholars say that the physical world will continue because there will still be wickedness in the world, but it would be much easier. The manifestation of God in the world would be great to the point where we won't want to be doing wrong.
It could be in the.
Well, here's the deal. If we're alive, because we're now into, 5,777, what happens if I'm alive at 6,000?
I wish you a good day.
No.
The Messianic era will come. Mashiach will come. Yeah. Hopefully, my plan is to bring him early.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm planning the party.
Oh,
Okay. So that's what we're kind of doing. We're bringing the party in early.
Can
Yeah.
you bring in there early?
Sure.
How?
By doing mitzvahs, studying Torah, doing kind deeds, being godly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole world goes in and becomes a godly world. That's what happens.
So you mean that based on your comment, you mean that there is no any human being on this planet that will bring peace into this world, unless the whole world need a spiritual awakening and recognizing God, put God in everything, so that in that time we will have a peace.
And so when the world has that spiritual awakening and comes to the recognition of God, that's exactly what's going to happen.
How will we know?
There won't be any more wars. We'll take $585 billion a year we spend on war, and we'll turn it into, maybe not go for a deficit, but go and pay, right? What? Yeah, that's right. Right. We could go ahead and we could use it, right, for helping people, right, for being kind, right? You understand, right? We turn it into a wonderful thing. The whole world, everyone, right? There's no more wars.
But he doesn't come just because of war. He comes to fix us.
Right. That's what I'm saying. To make us godly, right?
I have a lot of mistakes. I'm gonna.
Right. So exactly. So that's the job. The job is that we go ahead and we come to a place of where we become a godly people, right? The whole world becomes a godly world. In fact, in our Rosh Hashanah davening that we're going to say on Wednesday night and Thursday, starting Wednesday night, right, for Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday for the Lordner service, little advertisement there, right? So, right, we ask God to go ahead and to fill the world with godliness. That's exactly what we do, right? And that the world should recognize that God is God, right? God is God, whether the world recognizes it or not, right? But we are missing that piece to go ahead and to create that, right? And that's really what it's about.
You know, we'll still, if the Messiah were to come tomorrow.
Would, if you okay,
Yeah.
God willing.
All right, we would still be able to improve our spirituality. We just may find it a lot easier to become
We'll be focused
more godly.
We'll be focused on the spiritual.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Good.
you have a big following. Aren't we contributing to?
Absolutely. Okay, we need to get more people to do this. Get on the bandwagon. And okay, we got to beat the drums, right? We need to get everyone on board, and that's exactly what happens, right? We need to get right to become godly people. So now I want to talk about for a minute about the age of the universe. Very important Jewish topic here. That people have quite a misunderstanding of how the world works, and I'd love to share it with everybody here for a minute. Okay? How old is the universe?
14 billion years.
14 billion years. How old is the universe?
Very old.
14 billion years. 5,000, I'm going to say 5,777, 352 days.
That's a long man has been.
So very good. When the Torah talks about that the world is going to be around for 6,000 years, okay, the Torah, and by the way, Rosh Hashanah, right, coming up in 2 days, right, Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of man. It's when man was created. Okay, that is when we are marking time. We mark time from when man was created, not when the world was created.
Why?
Why? Because what is the purpose of the world? Man. So everything else is irrelevant. Okay? In fact, if you take what the Torah says about it, right? If you look in the Kabbalah, look in Jewish mysticism, it says the world is 14 billion years old, which is quite coincidental. The scientists have gotten there also. Good for them. Again, recently. I remember for the first 5,000, probably 400 years of the world, they thought the world always existed and whatever. We were the crazy ones. So that would just be interesting how that works. Okay? Right, but the world, right, we count the world from the creation of man. That's what we're counting. So the world is 5,777 years, 352 days, and plus 6 days. Got it? Plus 6 days. Right? That's day 1 of creation, day 2 creation, day 3 creation, day 4 creation, day 5 creation, day 6 of creation. Right? Okay, so now we have 5,777 years plus 5.5 days, whatever. Right now, question for you all. You told me, Justin, that God created in day 1 was light. And that was day and was night and it was 1 day. Fantastic. Can I ask you a question? Where does that light come from? What's that light that God created? The sun.
No.
What'd she say?
Well, the two guys said that was the sun, right? Because that's this day and night, right? That's day and night. The only problem is Jenna cheated a little bit. She read ahead. And by the way, you could always cheat and read ahead. That is perfectly fine. But actually, if you go ahead and you skip ahead, just turn the page for a moment, please. Okay, turn to page 5. Bottom of page 5. Okay, chapter 1, verse 14. Okay? And go ahead, Jenna, since you said that. Go ahead. You want to read that?
Sorry, which verse?
Verse 14.
14.
God said, "Let there be luminaries in the firmament of the heaven to separate between the day and the night. And they shall serve as signs, and for festivals, and for days and years. And they shall serve as luminaries in the firmament of the heaven to shine upon the earth." And it was so. God made 2 great luminaries, the greater luminary to dominate the day, and the lesser luminary to dominate the night and the stars. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to dominate by day and by night, and to separate the light and the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the 4th day.
Aha, so what does God create on day 4?
The sun and the moon.
Sun and the moon. Which means then, on day 1, was there a sun and a moon?
No.
And now becomes okay. The plot thickens. So how do you get light and day and night without a sun?
The light of Hashem.
Well, one thing for sure we know, it's not the light of the sun. Right? Because the light of the sun doesn't show up till later on, verse 14, 15, and 16. Right? And then day 4. Now let me ask you all another question. Because I'm just a simple person. I got to kind of wrap my mind around this.
Me.
Don't spill our secret, sure. Okay. All right. So now, how do we count? If you washed up on an island, deserted island, and you didn't have your watch got waterlogged when you fell off the ship, how would you count a day and a night?
By the sun.
Sundown.
By the sun. By sun up and sundown, otherwise known as the revolution of the earth vis-a-vis the sun. Right? When you're on the earth where you are on the earth turns away from the sun, that's called sundown. When it comes now back around, and now you come into where you now see the sun again, what's that called? Sun up. And that's what we call a day. There's only one little problem. How do you do that without the sun? How do you have day 1, day 2, day 3 without a sun?
You can't.
Okay. So God said that it was day 1. So how is God counting day 1?
Echad, not Nishon.
Good. That's good. Right? But now, again, you're following. It says it uses the word echad. Right? We'll get to why he does that. Instead of Rishon. But day 1, day 2, day 3, there's no sun yet. So when the Torah says there are 6 days, okay, there were 6 days. How long were those days?
So technically a day could have been a minute, and we don't really know.
A day could have been a minute. A day could have been a billion years. A day could have been a split second. Meaning, the question I always ask is, if we parachuted you back to the Garden of Eden, okay, parachuted back to the Garden of Eden, and in the Garden of Eden, you went ahead and you chopped down a cherry tree. Sorry, that's politics. Okay, you chopped down a cherry tree. And you counted the rings inside the tree. How many rings would be inside the tree? The answer is, it depends how thick a tree you chop down. Right? So you probably chopped down the cherry tree, right, with 30 rings. So now I was to ask you, how old is the world? What would you tell me?
Can't do it by the way.
You would tell me 30 years. And I say, but this is the first day. We told you, it's day 6 of creation. So what happens? So what does that mean? That God created a world that was old. When he created the world, okay, and the trees showed up, and they sprouted, right? And it means he created put down old trees. If you dug in the ground, would you have found wood that was rotting? Sure. Because he created an old world. Right? And so therefore, we said the world is 6 days. But whether those 6 days took place in a split second, 6 days of 24 hours, or 14 billion years old.
Doesn't matter.
All of those, from a Jewish perspective, are all, either way, I'm very cool with.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a stupid statement.
Go ahead.
Could it be possible that every 6,000 years the world was created again and again and again, that would total up to 14 billion years?
Ah, so very interesting. It's not a bad.
It could
It's
be
actually.
humans before us that we don't even know. Or it
Actually-
could be us coming back over and over and over.
Okay, so
and
now,
over
okay,
again.
so now you're getting into the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism, and I am too young to study Kabbalah. Okay, or I am uneducated enough to study Kabbalah. So there is such a concept that there's going to be like 7 worlds, and this is like the 4th of the 7 worlds. And the other worlds were created, went through, and then destroyed, and now we're in our 4th time. That's what some people say. That's where all the bones from the dinosaurs, etc. So all that is a possibility. I won't tell you it's not. Okay, I won't tell you it's not. It's just way beyond my pay grade. Like I'm just trying to live in the here and the now and trying to figure this out. But you got 14 billion years old. Okay, so again, God could have taken 14 billion years, or he could created a world that looks 14 billion years old when it's really a second old. Because even time is a creation. When is time created?
When God created
A few nanoseconds after the Big Bang. Right? Which means the time itself is a creation. Right? And so therefore how long it takes is also not an issue.
If I ask you the speed of sound,
Right.
prove it to me. Show me that how the speed of sound made. Is it possible to be proven?
Yeah. Speed of sound is easy. I was at a ball game. It's funny. I went this summer. I went to Baltimore, and so all the boys went to a baseball game on a Sunday, and to watch the Orioles. And and I was sitting, and we got like group seats. We were sitting like up in the nosebleed sections, like way in the nosebleed sections. The answer was high enough that short little roof that like over the stadium, when the sun was out, it actually blocked the sun. That's how far up we were. And we watched them playing ball. And I turned to my father-in-law, and it was good. The home team won, and they killed me. They had like 6 home runs or something like that. But every time the batter swung, we saw the ball fly, and around 2 seconds later, we heard, you heard the crack of the bat. So I turned to my father-in-law, and it was funny. He said he was thinking the exact same thing. I said, we are so far away that we don't even hear the crack together with the ball being hit. Like it takes sound. The sound is lagging, is lagging the hit. Right? So they have ways to time it. That can go ahead. So you go ahead. You have the world is 14 million. Again, very simple ways, right? Number one is either God created a world that's 14 billion years old. He created a world that looks 14 billion old. He took 14 billion years, whatever that means, right, and to do it. Right, but the truth is, all that stuff happened before. It doesn't really bother us. We really could care less, right? Because it's the world is not for that. The world is for human beings, right? The world is for man. So really, what we care about is man, and therefore, people talk about the man 250,000 years ago. Well, yeah, sure, they were humanoids, right? 250,000 years ago, no big deal, no soul, right? They're not there, right? It doesn't bother us, not a problem.
They had no ruach.
Right. They had no neshama. They had no soul. Right. They went there. They were missing the soul.
Well, they had a soul, but it was an animal soul.
An animal soul.
They
were
operating on an instinct.
Right. I call them humanoids.
It took them 300,000 years to make a chip.
Right.
That they used as a hammer.
Right. They call them humanoids.
Is that a real word, or you made it up?
Humanoids? I'd have to ask Webster. I'd have to see how popular I am if I could make new words. Okay, so you go ahead and you have right. The world is, and so now you have another thing as well. It goes like this. It's also just very interesting. You go ahead, okay? And you go ahead. If you take a balloon,
A what?
a balloon,
A balloon. Yeah.
okay, and then put 2 dots an inch away in the balloon, and then I go ahead and I blow the balloon.
Blow up the balloon.
I blow up the balloon and go, big balloon. How far away are the two dots from each other?
The opposite of
Not
each
an
other.
inch away.
More than an inch,
Yeah.
depending how big I blow the balloon, right?
Yeah.
So now, if I was to ask you a question, how far away are those two dots? What would you say?
After you blow it up or before?
No, you're looking at it. How far away are those two dots?
Far away.
So if I'm on the outside of the balloon, you tell me a mile, right? If I'm there when the balloon was before I blew it up, what would you say?
An
An inch. So now, my friends, who's talking in the Torah? God or man?
God.
So is he talking about before he blows up the balloon or after the balloon is blown up? No.
We don't know.
No, the Torah was written before the world was created. So when is God writing this book? Before the balloon is blown up. So if you look at the beginning of the universe looking forward, how many days did it take God to create the world? 6 days. If you're going on the end of the world and you're looking backwards,
14 billion years.
14 billion years.
Wow.
In fact, to help you out with the mathematics, any math majors here?
Was.
Okay, you was. Okay. All right.
Not anymore.
All right, okay. So the world is expanding, right? Does anyone know how many times the world has expanded?
No.
And I think it's a million, but don't hold me to that, okay? If you take a million, and you divide 14 billion by a million, you know what you get? 6 days.
No. Really?
Yeah. I didn't do the math. Dr. Gerald Schroeder is the one who did the math, so it's not me. I'm just telling you, right? This goes back, right? And so therefore,
Genesis of the Big Bang.
right. If you just kind of just go ahead and understand, right, that the world is being this 14 billion years old, right? All this thing from a Jewish perspective is absolutely no problem from a Torah perspective, right? And therefore, people say, you know, Rabbi, you might call me a heretic. I believe the world is 14 years old. I say, great. I said, fantastic, right? Okay, glad to hear that, right? And to go ahead and each one of those things, right? The God again, right? All those things are all, right? Are all acceptable ways to understand how the world was created.
So the dinosaurs were before us?
Sure. Yeah, dinosaurs are right. The dinosaurs actually are created at the beginning of the 6th day. Right? The beginning of the 6th day. Yeah.
So Nachmanides said that the world, the whole universe was created from something smaller than a mustard seed.
Yeah.
So finally science caught up with Nachmanides, who lived about 1,000 years ago.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna come to that. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna come to that. Okay. So good. Okay, so that's right. I think we all cool with that idea about the world being 14 billion years old. Not an issue, right? Okay, we're all excellent. Okay. The word Bereishis, the first word of the Torah, right, has the entire Torah put into it. Okay? Means every commandment in the Torah could come out of the first word. So, for example, the example I use, so the Vilna Gaon said this idea. So some said, oh yeah, what about Pidyon Haben? Pidyon Haben is when the firstborn male child is born, right? You have to redeem him after 30 days. Right? So what is that in the first word? So I said, very simple. The word Bereishis is 6 letters. Beis, which stands for Ben. Reish stands for Rishon. Right? Ben, Rishon. What? Achar Shloshim Yom Tifta. Right? The first son after 30 days you have to redeem. And he says, and every commandment in the Torah comes out of the word Bereishis. Okay? Right? The entire world is there. Bereishis, right, is in that word.
Every word in the Torah comes from this first word.
Yeah. Every commandment.
Every commandment?
Every commandment.
All 613?
All 613 commandments. Okay. Why does the Torah begin with a Beis? And not an Aleph. Good. Go ahead.
The olive represents God.
Okay, so then why do you begin with what? What?
You can't begin with that.
That's very interesting. What does the Ten Commandments begin with? An
Olive.
olive. Olive. So why does the world begin with a bays?
Because the world is not us.
Very interesting. Okay,
Which
so
is-
the world is about us. The idea is that you have God. Now He was creating a world that is quote unquote outside of God. Right? They now have two. And for the first time, before there was a world, what existed?
God.
God. What else existed?
Well, the human soul.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
It was God, right? And then God created something, quote unquote, outside of Him. So now you have a two. And that's why the Torah begins with the word bays, right? To show that it's something outside of God.
So then, just back to your Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are His. He created those, so that's why olive.
Oh, no. So the Ten Commandments. So that's because the Ten Commandments are God's essence.
So
Right? Those are all the commandments, right? The commandments are God, the way God operates in this world, right? The way God operates. Period. It's our little peephole into understanding what the human mind can wrap around of what God is. And you know what I'm saying? Because the commandments are the way that we can truly become godly and truly can connect to God. Right? That's right. That's what it is. Yeah.
You said that God created the Torah before He created the world.
Yes.
And the Zohar it says that He also created the human soul before He created the world.
Yeah, no, okay, that could be. But the Torah was black fire on top of white fire, which is really its energy. We talked about last week. And if we had to summarize God as anything, it would be energy. Right? But that was sort of the blueprint to what it is. Okay, so we go ahead and we have, right? Okay. The second word in the Torah is the word bara. In the beginning of His creating. Okay? What does creating mean?
Bringing into being.
Bring into being. So, who created the iPhone?
The what?
The iPhone. Stephen Jobs. Okay, so I want to tell you a little joke, which I think summarizes this verse so perfectly, but I find quite humorous. Sorry if you don't like my humor, but it's a pretty good joke. So a bunch of physicists got together and they said, you know, God, thank you so much. You created the world, but we're pretty smart. You know, we're advanced, and we don't need you anymore. We could run the world from here on out. And they said to God, "I'll tell you what, God, go ahead and give us a test to see if we could run the world." So God says, "Great, no problem." And God goes ahead and He says, "Okay, make man." So the physicists say, "No problem." They go out into the backyard. They walk out with the wheelbarrow, the shovel. They go and they shovel up a bunch of dirt. They put it into the wheelbarrow. They take the bottle of a zark of water and they head off to the laboratory to create man. So God says, "Where are you going?" So they said, "Well, God, you told us to make man." So God says, "Sure, get your own supplies."
Get your own supplies.
Right? Get your own supplies. You want to make man? Don't use my water. Don't use my dirt. Right? So you got to use my water and my dirt. You're going to, of course, who do you think put it in there? Right? So we go ahead. Steve Jobs did not create the iPhone. He took, again, it's interesting. The Hebrew word bara means creating something out of nothing. The only one who creates something out of nothing is God. Right? Everyone else, we take things and we just form them. In fact, I look at it on an iPhone, right? One of these phones, and I kind of marvel. Do you know how many different pieces? They said how many different pieces go into a phone, iPhone? How many different pieces? Right, hundreds, thousands of pieces. Right, different alloys, different pieces, right? To go into creating one simple little thing over here. Do you know when God created that? God created all those different pieces with the intention for us to use that for.
But why would He choose Steve Jobs, not me?
Oh, no. Okay. So one thing is, right? God has God's reasons. But the example I use is like this. You see my glasses? You see, without glasses, I'm pretty much blind as a bat. Okay, I can see people sort of sitting there. Okay, but I need new glasses. What do you make glasses out of? Sand. Right? You look at sand, you normally think, what a waste of stuff is there. Right? What does sand do? Right? Yet you heat it up, you create glass. You create glass, you can create, and you can see things. Right? And so God put all of that into, right? Into when He created sand, He had all those intentions in mind. You know, one of my favorite examples is you see an animal walking by, right? You see the cow walking down the street, right? Or you see the pig walking down the street, and what do you say? Well, there goes the pig. There goes my football. Right? Pig's a good football. Pigskin, right? But I live in the 21st century. So you know what I say when I see a pig walking down the street? I said, there goes my heart valve. Right? Or insulin walking down the street. And one of the major problems with transplants, by the way, is keeping the pieces fresh until we need them.
3D printers change that.
What?
3D printers change that. We don't need them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some things yes, some things not. And so what happens when I see a pig walking down the street? You know what I say? I said, there goes my heart valve, there goes my insulin, and there goes probably another 1,000 things that we haven't figured out yet. All refrigerated, all fresh until I need it, and when it comes time to need it, I'll have it. You know, do you understand the kindness and how God created the world? And all from nothing. Right? In the beginning of creating something out of nothing. Right? Going in and creating something out of nothing. Right? How amazing that is. And that's when we say bara, we mean something out of nothing. So in the beginning of God's creating something out of nothing, which only God can do. Mankind could go ahead and mankind could take something and he could refashion it. Right? We can mold it. Right? But the raw ingredients, right? We can't create. And that comes from God. Right? And that's why, so the beginning of God's creating, right? The heavens and the earth. Okay.
May I ask a side question? Why is insulin kosher?
Why? Because you're not eating it. As long as you don't eat it, you're fine. Like somebody asked me, needed a jaw replacement. So they were getting it from a pig. So they said to me, Rabbi, is it okay? So I said, as long as you don't swallow it, you're okay. Right? As long as you don't go ahead, as long as you don't swallow it, we're doing okay.
That's a stupid question.
Right? Okay, right? So right, so that's no, it's not a stupid question, it's a good question. Right? And again, you would die without insulin, so it would be irrelevant if it's kosher or not. But injecting something, the prohibition is eating food. Eating something, not having it injected into your body.
So, pork is not a wicked animal.
Who?
Pork.
No, not at all. It's very
You're
important.
just not supposed to eat it.
Right, of course. Absolutely. It's terrible because it's 39 cents a pound. But okay, what can we do? We have to sacrifice a little bit. Alrighty. And so we go ahead, right? So that's what it is. It's not an animal bad or animal, right? It's right what it's for. Okay, meaning of God's creating. Now what's interesting also is as follows. What name do we use for God?
Hashem. I don't know.
No.
Elohim.
Right? What does verse 1 say? Right?
Elohim.
Elohim. Can I ask you all a question? The word Elohim. Now, what does Elohim mean?
Justice.
God. Okay. When a Hebrew word ends in a yud and a mem,
It's plural.
it's plural. Is God plural?
No.
God is only singular, right? So why does the word Elohim, why is it in plural?
Because there's more than one attribute of God.
He's all encompassing.
Okay.
Justice and mercy.
That's actually interesting.
Although I don't know.
But how do we say God of mercy? Adonai, not Elohim. Elohim is God of justice, right? But why is it in plural?
Huh.
Isn't the majestic plural?
No what?
Omnipotent.
What?
Well, he's omnipotent.
What?
Omnipotent?
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, why would it be plural? Right? God is singular. Right? We say anything that's more than one. Right? We say right. God is one. He's right. The essence of one.
Well, there's a Shekinah, right?
But there's many.
It's
Right?
an aspect of God.
Right? Good. You have Shekhinah. Yeah, but that's the name of God. Sure.
But that's an aspect.
And Elohim is also an aspect of God.
Yeah. But why is it plural?
Did they make a mistake?
I love it.
Thank you, Sarah. God did not make a mistake. You know what happened was they did replace. You know, they did select all, and by mistake they hit replace all.
All right.
So what's the yud and the mem? Why is there plural? Why is it plural of a yud and a mem? And if God is anything but plural, He's singular. Why is it not El? By the way, which is one of God's names? Aleph Lamed. So why do we say, God, you are Elohim, right, with plural?
Because he was God gave the law.
Yeah,
God rules the world,
yeah.
and he judges the world.
Okay.
Made the world.
So why is God plural? Right? It's a problem.
What's the answer?
I want to sweat. I want you to sweat a little bit.
Because God is one.
It's too cold in here to sweat.
Yeah, that's
then you're not thinking hard enough. I'm sweating. Okay, so why is it Elohim? So the answer is as follows. You take a look over here. Again, we'll show you. Right, you take a look at our board here. If you can imagine, okay. Imagine here's the world. Here's little old me. Okay? Now they're all, El means power. Okay? How many different powers are there in the world? There's fire, there's sun, moon, stars, wind, water, hurricanes, tornadoes, etc., right? And they all affect the world. Okay, they all affect the world. And little old me looking up, what do I see? I see all these different powers. And what happens? I say, oh, here's the sun god, here's the moon god, here's the fire god, here's the water god. Right? Looking up, we go ahead and we give each one of these powers, right? We could give them their own strength, right? That's what idolatry is. Right? Looking up and recognizing each of them as their own. And what do we say? We say, God, you are Elohim. You are the source of all these powers. All these powers have nothing outside of you, God. And that's why we say, God, you are Elohim. We're saying, God, you are the source of all these powers. Right? The source of all these powers, that's what God, that's what you go ahead and that's what you do. Right? You're the source of all these powers. Right? And we're identifying God as the source of all these powers. That's why it's in plural. There are many names for God. Is God male or female?
We don't know.
What?
We don't know.
Sure we know.
I beg your pardon?
Of course we know.
He created Adam in his image.
Okay.
So doesn't that mean he's more masculine?
Very interesting. But now I'll tell you a little of Talmud. Okay? Stick with me. It said created God, man in his image, and so therefore, right, it's right, so he's like, right, they created Adam. The Talmud says actually God originally created Adam and Eve connected as one. And then he separated them. So therefore,
Gender doesn't matter.
no, gender matters a lot. People forget about that. And God doesn't make mistakes, by the way, on that too. Right? God created males, and females. Right? But what does he do? Gender matters a lot. Right? But what is it? Is that he goes ahead. God has masculine traits and God has feminine traits. God is neither male nor female, because male and female apply to us physical people. God's not physical. So he's neither male nor female. Right? The different traits, God has masculine traits, God has feminine traits. Shekhinah, very good. The Hebrew, right, the word for God, right, Shekhinah, which means God's presence, right? So then at that point in time, right, God's presence is going ahead and God's presence is, right, it's a feminine, right, Shekhinah and Zenhei, right, it's a feminine name for God. And so God has masculine and God has feminine names. Right? And so therefore, right, God is both. Right? And so therefore it's not male nor female, and just different traits. And both those traits are in God. Right? And so therefore, right, so God is oneness, right, beyond oneness, right, when it all comes back to God. And it's all oneness.
He's indivisible.
He's indivisible, right, and that's his oneness. So let me ask you now another question. Why did God create the world? To give, right? To give to us, right? That's what they're. So what trait is that?
What trait is what?
Is creating in the world. What trait is that?
Godliness.
Godliness, right? Right? Trait right is godliness. Okay, but it's kindness, right? Because it's given, right? So, and we say, what trait was Elohim? Justice. Okay, well, hold on a second. If we say God created the world was out of kindness, so then why does God start off the first time he mentions his name, mentions it as justice?
He's watching us.
Okay, so but he created us to gift us, which is kindness.
But justice is an important concept. I mean, you can't have. I'm not saying it right, but you have to have justice to make things right.
Okay, right. There needs to be law and order in the world.
Justice makes the world kind. Without justice, there's no kindness.
Really? I
necessarily.
like justice. To me sounds a little tough. I'm a sweet, nice little teddy bear. I like soft, kind, nice things. Right? Justice gets me a little nervous. I start sweating. I know, but you guys, Rosh Hashanah is a couple days away, and I don't care how cold it's there, I'm sweating. Right? That's right.
Why?
Justice.
Why are you sweating?
Because I'm going to stand in front of God and explain why I did what I did.
Or didn't do what I did.
Or I didn't do what I did. Right? Or didn't do what I should have done. Right?
Then you've got a problem.
That's right. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that, Cher? Right? You're following? Right? So if God is merciful, the whole world was created for mercy, then why does he start off with justice?
We don't know the answer. You should tell us.
I wanted you to think. I want to see the smoke coming out of the ears.
Because then when he gives kindness, instead of that just straight justice, we see that and appreciate it.
Okay, so it can kind of to warm us up to get to love to appreciate the God. Let me ask you a question.
Oh no.
When there's a conflict between hold on. We said when there's a conflict between kindness and justice. Kindness says good, justice says bad. Who wins, kindness or justice?
Kindness.
You hope. Why does kindness win?
But justice is determined by what you've done. It's deeds.
Okay.
So if you're going to look at what someone does, or all of us do, really being judged by what we've done, which leads to kindness. Kindness being one of those.
Well,
things
does
we
kindness
do.
override justice? Justice says, no right to live. Bam, shoot him. Kindness says, no, stop. Or does kindness say, stop, and justice says, get out of my way, buster. He created it. Bam. Who wins when justice and kindness fight?
Justice.
Glad you're wrong. So the answer is kindness. Kindness wins. Why does kindness win?
Kindness didn't win, we all would have just been killed right away.
Kindness wins because the whole purpose of the world, we said, was God created the world to give to us. It was all out of kindness that God created us. Right? So if the whole world was created out of kindness, just to give, so why is there any justice at all?
Because of God.
No, because we said if God just gave to us the unlimited credit card, what would happen? We'd be turned into takers, not givers. So the only way to make us not takers, but that we can be givers, that there's justice, there's accountability to our actions. So the whole purpose of the world, right? Justice helps the world come to its purpose, right? Come to its ultimate fulfillment of kindness. So justice serves kindness. And since justice serves kindness, if there's a conflict between the two, which one's on top? Kindness. Because kindness is the whole world was created for kindness. Justice is a tool to help you become we're called uber kind. Right? But then what happens is if there's a conflict, then justice gets shown the door. And kindness wins out.
So, question.
Yeah.
So, when Hashem delivered the Hebrew people from Egypt under the slavery,
The Jews, yeah.
and it was an act of justice or an act of kindness?
Well, did we deserve it, or did he do it out of kindness?
We did not deserve it.
So it was kindness.
Yeah.
Okay, so fine. So if that's the case, that justice is just there just to serve kindness, so then why does the Torah start off Bereishis bara Elohim? Why is it justice? Well, let's say Bereishis bara Adonai, right? God, in the beginning when God created the world. And the answer is because justice is there to become the ultimate kindness, which lets us earn the kindness that God gives us. And that's why it's justice, because justice is what holds us accountable. Right? Justice keeps us, right? Holds us what's accountable. And now I'm going to show you one of the... And this, by the way, this conflict between kindness and justice is what throws the entire world off into idolatry. Why? Because the world says, well, is God kind? Is God just? And what happens? Well, it depends. Some days it looks like the good guys win. Some days it looks like the bad guys win. Right? So who's in charge? So what does the world say? Must be two gods. They fight. Sometimes the good guy wins. Sometimes the bad god wins. Right? And that's why it's good and it's bad. And once you have two gods, then you begin having your pantheons of gods.
Because in Christianity, most Protestants believe that what they refer to as the Old Testament, that God is the God of judgment and justice, and JC is the God of Jesus, the God of mercy. So it's a dualism.
Right.
Like they're in a ring.
They're in a ring fighting.
Right. JC
Okay.
wins out.
Right. So we say, right? So kindness, justice, right? And because of that, so what do we say? So listen to one of the most well-known Jewish verses. I'm going to teach you what it means. Okay. How many of you have heard of the Shema?
Everybody.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, translate it for me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Okay, let me translate that for you. Hear, O Israel, God is God one. Let me repeat that again for you. Right, what you actually just said. Hear, O Israel, God one. Anyone want to explain this verse to me?
It's the God of mercy and the God of justice and the two
Hear,
are
O
one.
Israel, the Lord our God is one.
The Lord our God.
Is
I don't
one.
have the word
Lord of one. Okay, so if I had to write that, I would write Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad.
Okay.
But
But
that's not how it's written.
It's not?
No, God wrote it Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Right? If the whole message teaches me that God is one, let's just say Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad. Here Israel, God is one.
But it's the God of justice.
It doesn't say that. So now listen to what you really say.
It's the God of justice.
Shema Yisrael. Hear Israel. Adonai. God of mercy. Eloheinu. God of justice. Conflict between the two. Adonai Echad is one God. The God of mercy and the God of justice, both are one. Which one? Adonai Echad. It's God of mercy. Means mercy and justice, right? Seemingly conflict. And we say Adonai Echad. It's one and all the same God.
Wow.
All are mercy. That's what we say when we say the Shema. Right? We're saying, right? We're saying, right? It seems to be God of mercy. It seems to be God of justice. Say, what's going on here? Who's in charge? Adonai Echad. It's one and the same. Right? You follow? Right? You hear what's being said? It's unbelievable what you're actually really saying. And you're saying God is one. These two quote-unquote gods that are fighting, it's really the one and only God that's running the show. And it's the God of mercy.
And the aspect of mercy comes before the aspect of judgment.
Right. That's why, by the way, you'll notice in all the prayers, right? We're going to say, right? We say Avinu Malkeinu, right? Avinu Malkeinu, right? Avinu means
Our
Father, God. Malkeinu,
Our King.
our King. King is justice. Which one comes first? God of mercy, God of justice? Avinu, our Father. You're first and foremost our Father. Right? Right? It's all mercy is where it all comes from. Justice is just subservient to mercy. And that's why the Torah, when it begins to create the whole, it starts the whole chapter 1. When we talk about God, which name of God is used? Elohim, God of justice. When does the first time that Adonai gets attached to justice?
When he creates us.
Very good, when he creates man. Why when he creates man? Because man can't exist without mercy. And which one comes first, Adonai or Elohim? Adonai. Because it's all mercy. And so that's why right when the Torah, it starts off, Bereishis bara Elohim. Right? It's all Elohim, 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 Elohim. Right? It's all God of justice because the whole world's running on justice. And everything's running just fine in justice. And then what happens? Right? And then at that point in time, then we go until man comes around. Once man comes around, okay, justice now is in trouble, right? Because they have to go to create the world, and therefore he goes and says Elohim. Yeah.
So it's just to have a credit card limit.
Right, no, that's what it is. Justice is saying is that you have a limit,
Yeah.
right? And because that way, then you can
gotta
earn.
pay the price.
You got it. You're right. You can earn what you have, right? That's exactly what
Otherwise
happens.
You have bread of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you have bread of
Right,
shame.
and that's exactly what it is.
You get it all for free.
The bread of shame means that you're turned into a taker,
Yeah.
and God, in essence, is a giver. So human beings have to become a giver, right? Have to become a giver, right? Right? Human beings have to go ahead and have to become a giver, and that's what happens. And we turn into givers, right? Right? That becomes our job, right? To become givers. Okay. Yes.
So at the end of the Alenu prayer, so where Benei Adonai. Yeah, so I think that was stating the God, Adonai's sovereignty, right? Is that what it is?
Say it again. What?
So, sovereignty of God, and he said on that day Adonai will be
Sovereignty.
Yeah, sovereignty.
Yeah.
It's a French accent.
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, so God Adonai will be one.
Will be king over the whole world.
And then God's name will be
one. Right.
Is that explain?
Well, that's what it's saying. It's saying that everything, that it all comes back to God being God, right? It all comes back to God being God, right? Right. That's exactly what's happening. It's that God is God. right? God is one. Right? That's the key. Okay, we go ahead and we have God as being God. Okay, so Bereishis, right in the beginning, he created 6,000 years. The world was created for 6,000 years. Bara, he created something out of nothing, right? The whole world was created something out of nothing. Elohim, right? God of justice, right? Because the world was created in order, right, for justice, right? Justice is a way that the world could be the best for the world, right? Okay, so then we have, right, Eis Hashemayim Ve'Yisar, it's the heavens and the earth. Okay, good. Okay, why again? We said the purpose of the Torah is to teach me cause and effect, right? Or to teach me moral and ethical behavior, right? Where do we learn moral and ethical behavior? What? We learn it from the commandments, right? So there's a very basic question that we need to answer. In the entire book of Genesis, how many commandments are there? Good. What?
6.
I have no idea.
And besides, we live inside the Noahide laws, or really the 7 Noahide laws. Which one? Shabbat's not in the book of Genesis. It's interesting, even though it has about the creation. You know, okay, right? So what are the right the laws? There are 3 laws. 3 laws in the entire book of Genesis.
Study the Torah.
And that's not even there. It's not there. The 3 laws are: be fruitful and multiply. Right, first commandment in the Torah. Right, be fruitful and multiply. Right, the second commandment is circumcision. Right, and the third commandment is don't eat a limb from a live animal. Right, Ever Menachai. Right, those are the 3 laws in the Torah, in the book of Genesis. In Genesis, all the commandments in Genesis. You go ahead and then you have what? Then you have an Exodus, the first half of the book of Exodus. There are no laws. Right? Actually, then it starts with a vengeance. Because then you have, in chapter 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, you have a truckload of laws. So the question like this. So why write the whole first book of Genesis and the half of Exodus when the purpose of the Torah is to teach me cause and effect? It's to teach me moral and ethical behavior. So why do I need to know, right, the first book and a half?
Wasn't there a lot more to this whole thing than Genesis?
No, there is. I mean, again, there are 5 books, right? But the first book and a half really has no commandments. So why are we going ahead and why are we going ahead and including that, right?
Are we learning who God is, that He is the Creator and we are subservient to Him?
Where's creation?
Where's creation? Okay, so that's why I have to start off with the creation. So I get it. So I do chapter 1. God created the world. And you too, right? Right? And so now, right? And it's a YouTube. I said you too, right? Okay, right? Right? Okay, yeah. Right? God created us. Fantastic. So God created us. So now why? Right? If God created us, so now why are we going to? Why do we chapter 2 through 50, and 1 through 19 in Exodus?
Because there's a lot more to him than Genesis.
So the whole book of Genesis is here to teach me cause and effect. You do what God wants, you get richly rewarded. You don't do what God wants, you're in deep doo-doo. Right? And the whole book of Genesis, and half the book of Exodus, it's that same message over and over and over and over and over again. Right? It's all about cause and effect. Right? Is that there's certain behaviors Good behavior brings out good results. Poor behavior brings around poor results. Right? And that becomes the message, right? The whole book of Genesis is this message, right? That there are consequences to our actions, and what we do matters. That in how we live and how we behave, and what we do, there are consequences to our actions.
God pays us measure for measure.
Yeah.
So the punishment is in the action.
Well, sometimes, right, we go ahead and we have the action, and at that point in time, then it goes ahead and we, at that point in time, we go ahead and we could get ourselves all messed up, right? But it's the idea of going ahead, right, and of having, right, of doing all these things, right? Is that the purpose of the book of Genesis is to teach us cause and effect. And there's a cause and effect in this world, right? And what we do matters. Because and it's funny because if you think about that, people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter what we do. You know, it's like life's just one big crapshoot."
Yeah.
Right. People, I feel bad for those people. You know why?
They live chaotic lives.
There's no purpose to their lives. Their lives are meaningless. If it doesn't matter what you do, right? If it's irrelevant what you do, right? Your life means diddly. Right? What purpose is there in your life? Right? If your actions don't control anything, I feel bad. And the Torah teaches us no, that our actions control everything, and everything we do matters. Right?
You can't be self-actualizing.
What?
You cannot be self-actualizing if you don't have any moral compass.
Well, it's another moral compass, right? But right, more than that, what you do matters, right? There's right what you're going ahead and what you're doing, it really matters, and you have to stop and think about that. Right now, if you stop and think about it too long, you're gonna go crazy because the consequences are crazy. Right? If you actually think about what consequences you have, right, and the far-reaching consequences to the actions that you do. Right? Life becomes a pretty weighty matter, right, of what you're doing. Right? But it really matters what you do. Right? And that's what the Torah says. Our actions matter. And therefore if our actions matter, so therefore they matter good and bad. And that's what Rosh Hashanah is about. And Rosh Hashanah is about standing in front of God and saying, right, okay, and during this whole time, right, Rosh Hashanah is about making God king. But it's going ahead and understanding that all what we do, right, is right, that all these things that are being done are just, they matter what we do. And that's why the Torah tells me the whole book of Genesis, half the book of Exodus. You do A, consequence B. You do C, consequence D. Good and bad. Good and bad. Right? Abraham stands up and takes responsibility for the world. What does he create? Jewish people. He saves the world. The world is about to end. And he saves the world. And he creates us with the most incredible relationship with God. It's the most amazing thing. Right? One man, one action. Right? You have a person, Nimrod. Right? Right? Cain kills Abel. He wipes out half of mankind. Just like that. Gone. Snuffs them out. Right? Noah and the flood. Right? The entire world is just forfeits the right to exist. Tower of Babel, they use unity and rebel against God. So they lose unity. The worst curse ever given to mankind, by the way. Nationalism. Right? We no longer identify just as human beings, we identify which human beings we are. Right? It's no longer enough to be just human. Right? So all these things that come about, it's crazy stuff. Right? To think about it, right? It's just crazy stuff. Right? It's an amazing thing. Right? What we do really matters. Right? And what we do and how we do, and it's important. And that's what Genesis teaches us. And as we go through Genesis, right, we're gonna go through all these different stories and all these different things. We're gonna have to address them all. Good, bad. What lessons do we learn? What do we do? What do we not do? Right? How do we act? How do we not act? Right? All those questions come about, and all those questions really might become very meaningful. Okay. I think we're going to stop here because the next idea is going to just blow our minds a little bit too far for here. I want to start off fresh. I want to really just watch them pop. Okay, so Rosh Hashanah is coming up. Rosh Hashanah starts right next this Wednesday night, right, 2 days. Right, if you'd like to join us for the holidays, we'd love to have you. Just let us know coming. Rabbi Abrams is in the room next door. You could tell him if you're going to join us. We'd love to have you all come join us for any of the holiday meals. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you guys. And and everyone have ksiva v'chasima tova, a good writing, a good sealing, right? Then may we share many good things in this coming up year, and may this be a year of true spiritual growth and coming closer to God, and truly creating a truly becoming a godly people in a godly world. So we'll see you all Monday in the next year. Everyone have a wonderful evening.